Welcome to the 158th episode of the Solid Station Podcast on the July 4th weekend. Man, we got a bit to talk about today, and man, freaking America right there. I'll tell you what, folks, I know we're recording this a couple days early, and if you're listening, you wouldn't know any better, but we're doing it because, hey, guess what? July 4th is the day we all celebrate with fireworks, barbecuing, maybe some alcoholic beverages, and we've got some safety tips for the week on that. But hey, since we're here on a Sunday recording, we'll get into what's going on in the shops because most of us work in the shops on the weekends, except for, well, sorry, Josh. Josh is getting there. He's got like a whole another couple weeks, and then he'll be able to be back in the shop again. He's looking pretty hot right now. I think he was hanging out with some folks, I think, before he came here. But hey, Josh, so since you're sunburnt, then I'll get up, man. Not much going on in the shop, but what you been up to, man, this past week? That's just bad, dude. But hey, what's going on, man? What's going on with life? What's going on the back of the truck and other people's shops? What's up?
Sounds dirty when you say it back at the truck like that. A little hot, a little bother, a little red. Anywho, so I was running late a few times I've been running late. Went golfing. I haven't played golf in a while. Got out there. I was invited out. And a little busy here at Lackland. A little more busy than I'm used to. Did okay. Didn't do too bad. But caught some sun. And I've had nothing to eat today. So kind of eating my cookie here and talking on the podcast and having a great old time. But I have done some woodworking, believe it or not. Again, I went over Ben's Beach Time woodwork, sorry. And we did some laser work, and we did some CNC work, and we're going over some things and doing some rotary. Basically, he's utilizing my presence here for, filling in those little niches that he's trying to figure out with his machines, and he's teaching me some stuff, getting to meet some other people as well, which is pretty cool. I do plan on scheduling out other people. I did spend some time with Stan from the Lost City of Franklin. I think I mentioned that the last podcast, but it's exciting news that he got a laser, so I'm pretty stoked for him. Other than that, though, in the second to last block, my schooling, so we're over halfway through. I'll be testing on block 3 here this next week after the holiday. So, staying busy, trying to do things that I normally don't get to do when I'm back home because I'm too busy for it. Doing a little woodworking and helping people out while I'm here. And then, I have been hopping on trying to do some reprogramming when it comes to my website and other stuff. But trying to keep it simple. I can't do much when it comes to in the back of the truck. I need to get some more wood. And I just haven't stopped by Woodcraft or Rockler or anything like that to grab some. I did hand off my first mallet to Stan from Lost City of Franklin as per his first mallet he gave me, I gave him my first mallet. So that was a pretty good exchange, I believe. And, not much going on other than that. I'm looking forward to getting the shop set up when I can. It's going to be a challenge on its own, but you know what? Small shops. Not everyone has a big shop or 2-car garage. And, this would be good to be able to set mine up and then, maybe I could share some pointers with other people. And hit that demographic that, small shops, because that's what it is. So we'll make it work, because, that's what we do. But I'm going to wrap that up and go ahead and send it over to Nick and see what he's been up to.
I've been pretty inundated with work since I got back last week, but I got a job running on the CNC machine right now. We've been working on a shadow box that is in the shape of a badge, which is interesting. Trying to work out the logistics on that. Josh hooked me up with the file, which I ended up not using, because it just for some reason it wasn't going to work out for what I needed to do with it. So I had to change things up. I did some minimal work to an original vector file it wasn't original. I ripped it off the internet, but I did some minimal work to it on Lightburn, and then I converted the file to vector graphic and imported it into the CNC software so I could get it rocking and rolling. And it's coming along. I have some of the things I need cut out for it, getting cut out right now. And the glass is cut, the accents are cut, the main body is cut, or the facade, but the main body is working on it right now. This is going to be a presentation on the 7th of July, so hopefully I can have it done by tomorrow evening, and then start on my next shadow box, which is due. The gentleman retires on, I believe, the 14th, so that'll be easy. That's just a rectangular shadow box, but it's going to be 48 by 24, so it's going to be a big son of a gun. But I went through with this particular customer, and oddly enough, both customers are 06s. But I went through and with the customer, and we designed it, and we did a whole video conference and designed the whole project, and it's going to be pretty nice. It's going to be the one after the one that's being made right now is going to be walnut with cherry wood accents, and it's just going to be a rectangle. I do still have to acquire the plexiglass for it, because the plexi that I did get, I ordered 24 by 48, but it came in 24 by 46. So I'm kind of irritated at that. I mean, I'll still use the material, but when you advertise something as a dimension that you're getting, and it comes in a couple inches short, it's so disappointing. And you kind of feel like you wasted time on that.
I can tell you what, though, Nick, it's funny talking about like the dimensions and things like that. So I went away with exact dimensions because, sometimes, got a little room for error, right? So it's like I'll do the 24-ish by 36.
No, I understand. Like, I think there is a degree of like, hey, if I'm going to make you, unless it's like a built-in or something that you're making specifically to fit in a specific slot that needs to have like, right high tolerances,
Actually, most built-ins and stuff have pretty good tolerance on each side, and they use trim to hide that. So we actually deal with more tolerances with the stuff you do.
I like a little trim every now and then too, but so the thing about it is, though, anytime that you're trying to fit something tight into a spot that say is not going to have trim, you're going to need to be precise. But I do feel that the majority of my projects come in within 1/4 of an inch of what they're supposed to be. So I think that's a fair tolerance. And if anybody's actually taking a measuring tape saying like, what about the last 0.25 inches? I'm like, well, look in your pants. I don't know what to say. But, I shut my Etsy shop down. It's still active, but it's, I am away. I have an away message saying I'm diligently working on projects because I just kept getting hit with Etsy, and I'm like, man, I can't manage everything all at once right now. I'm trying to turn off the hose, the fire hose of work, just a little bit, just like kind of throttle it. But it has kept me up late a lot. One night this week, I was up till about 4 a.m. trying to get some projects out, and shipped a couple things yesterday, which I'm actually getting really quick at doing medium-sized projects all in one afternoon. So I can knock out maybe 1 or 2 at a time if I dedicate myself to just that project all at once, which I try to do 3 or 4 at a time, which if I have the time to do it, it will extend it'll extend the production time just by a little bit. However, I get more done in that amount of time than I would if I was to do one at a time. And if you heard that was my one son dropping bowling balls upstairs. So I do apologize. I don't know if he has a bowling.
Good practice.
Yeah. Bowling balls. Like, out of all things, you're dropping bowling balls. Like, there's no worries.
That or his brother.
Yeah, they're doing power bombs or whatever you call them, the pile drivers upstairs.
Yeah.
So the kids here have been on just another level lately, man. They have been absolutely just summer is here and go. I do try to bring them out to the pool, which does take away from my shop time, but I try to take them out to the pool just so that I can have the evening to work without being interrupted. Because, once you get the kids in the sun and in the water, man, they get home and that's a wrap, Jack. They're ready to go night. So, but that's one of my strategies to get more shop time. The downside to that is once you get in the sun and you get in the water, you want to go night after you get home. So fighting with your body to get yourself to do the work you need to do is a chore sometimes. And I think we all feel it, especially when you've just been jobbing for so long. But anytime I don't have a class for my day job, things are pretty easy. But we're fixing to start up here next week, and it's gonna be back to the grindstone. So, what about you, Nap?
Well, I have jobs, yes. Am I working on them right this minute? No.
Slacker.
Yeah, procrastination's been kind of a killer. However, the jobs I have to do, so like even as Nick said, right? So medium-sized jobs, like you can knock a couple out, in a day if you just, focus on them. So, matter of fact, after the podcast today and after I go buy a few $100s worth of fireworks, yeah, so...
do I have to give you a safety brief?
No, we'll talk about the safety brief after. But no, me and a couple of guys that I work with, we've all got kids and whatnot. So we're actually all going to buy, a couple $100s worth of fireworks, mostly mortars. And we're going to go to his place because he's outside of city limits. So here in North Dakota, if you're in city limits, you can't launch mortars. But if you're outside of city limits, which he is outside of city limits, you can do whatever the heck you want. So that's let's be one hell of a 4th of July on the 3rd of July because the 4th of July falls on the day prior to a school night. So we're going to do it the day prior just because, we want to be able to have fun, do the things, stay out late, and not have to worry about waking up the next morning, to go to work.
Kids don't know the days. Like, that's the benefit of having younger kids is like if you need to move a holiday for like that scenario, they're just going to remember what you did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's, believe me, being in the military, I think we've all done it because we all have kids. It all worked out. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you get home deployment on Christmas Day. What are you going to do?
Yeah, right.
So.
But yeah, so we're moving our festivities a day ahead, which will be fine. But then after the firework buying bonanza that's going to ensue, I'm going to get in the shop and work on some things. Before the podcast today, I'd actually started working on something really with the rotary machine, not doing a project on it, but just making it better. And that'll come more in with the tip of the day or tip of the week, really, as it applies to really not only CNCs, but it can really apply to any machinery, really, that uses a certain type of connection. And I'll explain more here shortly. But I've got a couple stripe plaques to make for Mass Sergeant stuff because, like I told you, I had a couple that came in after the release, which is fine. But I reached out to all the individuals that were prospects of that particular project because just like you fellas, we do like to do production work. But if we're doing that, we want to know how many we're making so we can just rip all the jobs off at the same time. So I emailed the customers and said, hey, if you're interested, hit me with your personal email. I'll send you the invoice, and then I'll get them done for you, this weekend. Because they have to understand, and I'm sure they understand that they're not the only jobs on the list. So I'm going to get those done. I think I got 4 more Mass Sergeant stripe plaques to make, the ones that I made for the release, which will be about a couple hours of my time between cutting and throwing them on the laser and whatnot. So that won't be too big a deal.
Are they having their ceremony a little late? It just seems later.
So, okay. The release itself was a little late, and that was for reasons not needed for the podcast. We were a little behind the curve with that. So I'm going to do 4 more of those, send them out. Be no big deal. And then I got, I'm getting hit up from Colorado for some Tech Sergeant release deals, which will be cool, as well as possibly the 70 some here. Almost like, oh God, this is going to be fun. So I'm keeping my plate kind of clear purposefully for that. And it's actually been affording me the time to work on my machines. So I don't know if I talked about this the last time about the rotary and the wand and it's getting just wrecked. But in lieu of that, I've been preparing another project after my screw up on the first time using it, and I'll be running it today. But before I started doing that, I started working on some connections on my machine. So I'll just kind of start getting into that real quick. So if you have a Shipoko, a Onefinity, any of the hobbyist CNCs, or if you have lasers that might use these particular connections, they're called Molex connections. They're little black clippy deals that have like the crimp pins, and you know, it all goes together nice, right? But if you don't crimp those right, and the locking mechanisms in the connectors aren't good, they pull free. Well, I noticed on one of my machines that had actually occurred, and I started getting some arcing, which then was telling the motor that there was a wire missing, and it was causing a very violent shuddering on one of the axes. So I ended up reaching out to Daniel because he's been doing a lot with different types of connections from PW and CNC. And he put me onto these aircraft connectors. Now, why not, put an aircraft connector on a hobbyist CNC? Because why not? It's always better, right?
Do it.
It's not necessarily always better, but in this case, it actually is because he uses them on his spindle kits. And they are very, very reliable. So real quick, I'll share. I actually pulled up a picture of them so I can better represent what they are. Let's see here. There it is. We'll share that guy. So this is the connectors that I'm working with. Now, I did reach back out to Daniel today as I was working on these connectors and told him I swear that these connections are made for Satan's children because these connections, they're although very, very robust and very great connectors for what they're being used for, they are not the easiest to deal with. Now, mind you, I don't know how he does this on a mass scale and produces so many. I'm sure as you get experience, you get better. But if you notice, these right here are not like connection points you just clip in or screw in. You have to solder these in. So imagine a 22 gauge wired size solder cup. Okay, that's what I call them. And you have 22 gauge wire, and you're trying to solder these in there with two hands while wedging the connector in one spot, while trying to tin the wire and put it in there and do all the things, and then it moves on you as you're trying to do it. And then burning yourself a bunch of times in the process. It's great. So after about 30 minutes of a lot of profanity and dirty talking to the machine and the things I was working with, I eventually got the first one done. I can tell you that it is night and day difference as far as the connections themselves, because once something like that's soldered in and you do it properly, you put the heat shrink around it, you shrink it around so you get no arcing between the different terminals and all the things. It is a very strong connection, and I shouldn't have any failure in the new connection point. Whereas with the Molex connectors, if you accidentally, let's say, get caught on something or something catches one of them, those are just mechanically held. Those aren't soldered in any way, shape, or form. They're just crimp connected. So they pull out a little easier. So I got one of those installed. I got another one to do after the podcast. And then I can start running my machine again. Now, I might, for any other machines that actually use these or use the Molex connectors, I may replace all of them with these because typically speaking, when your motors start to go, the first step of any kind of troubleshooting is checking your connections and whatnot, making sure there's no burning, no damage. And I would say about 95% of the time I have issues with stepper motors or anything, it has to do with these connections. So if you are listening to this and you want to upgrade your connections, they're GX12 connectors. There's a male and female side that you can buy. I got mine off of the old Amazon. And that will definitely up your game as far as reliability of the connection points for your machine while it's running. So that was that. What else?
How much did it cost?
$6. $6 for a pack of 5. And, if you mess one up like I did, you just toss that one across the garage with extreme force and go to the next one. So that's with those. Now, I would say anything else in the shop going on right now, it's really just keeping it clean. Because, like, as Nick and Josh know, that if you don't have a clean shop, it actually is more work than if it was clean and organized to begin with. So, yeah, there's that. As far as other jobs on the horizon, I already explained that, so there's that. But let's talk about the 4th of July weekend. So what are you guys doing? I mean, Josh, you said you went out golfing today. Got a lot of sun. Nick, I know you normally do a big shindig. So, Josh, what are you doing on your 4th of July weekend, being away from home and everything?
Well, I'm trying to keep busy, trying to keep busy and study still, even though it's a holiday. Today we're golfing with classmates. Tuesday we're going to be doing a big grilling thing, actually outside the hotel here. So we invited the class over and basically bring your own food, bring your own beer, alcohol, whatever. And we'll all grill our stuff up and just kind of hang out and chill. That way, because everyone's gone. You know what I'm saying? 20 of us are pulled away from their families and our normal lives and down here doing this. And so we're going to get together and have a good time. And then that's about it. Might stop over to Ben's again tomorrow, I think you mentioned. Really depends on how I feel and how this all progresses for the next 24 hours. I don't think I got fried too bad, but I definitely got a little darker than I thought.
Dude, Polacks don't
we'll
tan. We burn. All right.
I burned once and then I tan after that. And I haven't burnt in a while, so we'll see how this works. But, not too much. I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm not down here trying to spend all the money in the world either. We're about to move. And, that's a whole new bucket of bolts I'm going to have to go through. Trying to still work out moving plans, believe it or not. So every time I come up with a plan, something happens.
Naturally.
So, I was talking about doing a pod and a U-pack, and the pod contract came down and I had to sign it so they could continue on with a reservation. And I started looking through it. Now, mind you, it was like 11 o'clock at night and I decided to go ahead and read the contract.
Oh, Lord.
Go figure. So as I look in the contract, I was told that, they don't really, don't worry about weight because it's not an issue. And in the contract, it said 4,200 pounds. Gonna go over that. So I can't use that. And then later on in the contract, it said, "Oh, you can't sue us if something happens to your stuff."
Catch all.
And then it says, "You can't have a piece of equipment or item that's worth more than $5,000 per item." And it kept going down. Like at first, I'm like 42, maybe I could deal with that, and it just kept going. It got to the point where I stopped reading it. I called them up and canceled. I'm like, "Look, what you have in your contract and what you sold me are two different things. So we're going to do it the redneck way. We're going to get a U-Haul and a Penske truck with liftgate, and we're going to use the Penske truck to lift all the stuff up and then throw it into the U-Haul." So it's going to take a little bit longer. It's not ideal, but you know what? We're going to make it work. Because what we do as makers, we make things work. We take what we have, and we find a damn way to do it. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Maybe there's going to be a couple hold my beer moments during that. We'll see. But we'll get everything loaded and ready to go. But yeah, honestly, it's just, keeping my head in the books, doing little things here and there, hanging out with Ben and some other makers, and still planning for the move. The wife's back home and she's been doing the majority of the heavy lifting when it comes to that. So hopefully when I get home, I get out of the truck, I'll start packing. So, I'm hoping here in August, lots changing for me and my family, a lot. And I want to make sure that we do as smoothly as possible. So kind of a little further than the 4th, but I got a little bit around rant there. What are you doing, Nick?
Well, first off, I wanted to say, so are you still moving your stuff, or you just kind of have the movers take it?
I'm moving it.
All right. I was going to say, if by chance you ever have them take anything that has to do with the business, take pictures of it before. What? You can't hear me?
Just a little louder. Let
me turn up this motherfucker. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
How about now?
That's way better.
All right. So
just deep throat it.
Okay. So, it's like 6 inches from my mouth. So
Wow, someone lied to you. That is not 8 inches.
So if you do have anybody touch anything that is like high dollar or whatever before you move, take pictures of it in multiple angles. I know Knapp had some issues with his table saw. But that being said, this way you can prove. And actually, you know what you can do is if you do have somebody move it the day that they do move it, take pictures of the movers holding it, of it in perfect condition. And then when you get it off or when it comes all jacked up, then you can hammer them, be like, look, they grabbed it when it was in perfect condition and it's undeniable. There's undeniable proof, you know? I know it's like one of those last minute afterthoughts and there's a million things going on when the movers come, but that's like, but, for the 4th, I am going to a private bourbon collector's house. This gentleman has over 900 bottons of
Oh my
bourbon.
God.
Yeah. Well,
there's a hobby and then there's a problem.
Well, he owns a large piece of real estate with, he was telling me all about how like they're having a party and all this stuff. And that's just his bourbon, dude. He's got a few hundred bottles of tequila, a few hundred bottles of scotch. Just he's got a very significant problem, I guess you could say. But
well, we don't hold up during the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah,
but
for real.
yeah, that's happening. So other than that, though, I'm just working, trying to get some stuff done in the shop, and I'm wrangling kids right now too. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. So other than that,
wife's gonna kill me for that. But
I jacked up last night. I was messaging a customer about some specifications for a project that I was making for this person, and then I was messaging somebody else, and I was being a smart ass and like I normally am. And I sent the wrong message to the customer, one that was meant for somebody else. Yeah. And
how'd that go?
Well, let me pull up the text message because it was.
Oh God, no.
This is a mistake you don't want to make as a business owner.
A business phone and normal phone.
Here, I'm not going to say what the context of of the conversation was because it's highly inappropriate. But the last message I sent was, "Oh snap, wrong person. Well, this is embarrassing." So yeah.
And was that left unread?
No, they said you're good. I was like, okay. So anyhow,
you're good. We're going with someone else.
Well, they already paid me, so I don't know what to, like.
Oh, okay. Well,
there's already no refunds, no exchanges.
Yikes!
But yeah. Anyway, well, was there another question? I think that's it.
I do have a question for you, Nick. Are you going to get a business phone?
No, not yet.
Like a different
not
line?
Yet. I can't be carrying around 2 phones like a drug dealer here while I'm at work.
2
I know.
phones.
I carry one. I got 2 SIM cards in this phone. The Pixel 7 Pro allows 2 SIM cards in there, so I can go between the 2 phones, and I only have to carry one.
Interesting. There's also Google Voice,
yeah,
too.
It's definitely nice. Yeah, it's nice because when spam calls come through, they'll talk to it for you, and if it's a real person, they'll actually let it through. You can accept it or not. Once in a while, I've accidentally did that to the wife when she called. It's not a good thing. I don't suggest doing it. But yeah, I mean, just a thought. I mean, there are phones other than Pixel, if you don't like that, that do have dual SIM, and you can go ahead and I mean, one's a digital SIM and the other one's just a regular SIM card. And basically how it works is like if I'm texting either like both of you guys, I have a choice to text between the 2 numbers. I can text on my normal number and then I can switch it over to the other SIM card and it will send in the same text. It's just different colors.
Okay.
So like I have my normal blue and then like NCW is like orange, burnt orange. And like I made it very contrasting. So that I know which phone I am sending it from. I do the same thing with phone calls and whatnot. I know, Nap, you got started with a dual business phone and normal line, and then I followed suit. I was just curious if Nick was going to jump on board with that.
No, not yet.
It's definitely worth it.
Not yet. I just can't do it right now. I need everything in the one.
No, that makes sense. No pressure, just asking, man.
Yeah.
But,
just don't send any more embarrassing messages to the wrong person.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. It might help with that, or may not, depending. It does happen, though. I mean, like, communication with clients are key, right? The hardest thing to do is have good communication with someone you really don't know. And when you're reaching out, with clients reaching out to you, what is too much communication? What is not enough? What do you guys think? Because, like, there's a happy medium there, and it depends on the client for me. Some clients, they want to know everything. Other clients, they want to know the price when it's done.
So I like that. You want to know the price, you pay me, and you just, if I give you a timeline, and if you reach out before the end of the timeline and say, hey, are we still good? Then that's fine. I've had other clients reach out to me. Well, I give them a timeline, which is nowhere near within the span of 2 weeks. Let's just put it that way. I'm like backed up pretty good. So I give them a general timeline. Let's say I tell them 60 days, right? And they're like, okay, cool. They pay me. And then 7 days later, they're like, hey, can I get pictures of the project progress? Yeah, I'll send you a blank photo. I haven't touched your shit yet, man. Like that's why I'm like, what do you think? It takes me 60 days to make your project? Or I'm not saying that to them, but it's like some people think that you're their only, like your job is them at like for that 60 days. You know what I mean? Or for that time period. And it's clearly not. I have multiple people I have to cycle through, multiple projects I have to cycle through in order to get to theirs. And I'll tell you what, being sick really hurts. Not just yourself, but like when you have to message all these people and be like, hey, I know we're still good for your retirement or whatever, but it's going to be a couple days later than the finish date, but you're still on track for having this by your retirement, So.
Mm-hmm. And I wish people, like I said, communication is the hardest part, I think, with business. And as a owner of a business, there are no sick days. I mean, even when you're, sick as a dog and you're laying in bed, you can't make it to the shop, people are still expecting things to get done. The best way I find when that happens, personally, is to reach out as soon as I know I can't get in the shop. Let them know. Let them know as soon as I can helps, on the back half when they're asking for it and they're asking why is it late and you're like, oh, I'm sick. So that good communication piece is important.
Oh,
Nick, do you have any?
Well, I got one more thing as well. So in order to get your spot reserved for a project through me, right? Yeah. Once the invoice is fulfilled, or if it's a large job, the deposit has been placed. That's when your order. Mm-hmm. That's when I know you're serious, and that's when the order gets put in the queue to get produced, right? So, like if I get your funds. I immediately, if it's lumber, I'll go ahead and allocate funds for lumber, or I will go ahead and place the order for acrylic, whatever. I'm dedicating that amount of money, and I will always buy materials way in advance. So when I come around to that job, I have it on hand. I don't have to actually do anything. So when people wait to pay the invoice and they're like, like they order, hey, can I have this plaque made? Yeah, cool. How long is it going to take? Well, it'll take this many days from date of payment receipt. Okay, cool. Well, they have like a hard date for like a presentation or something like that. And, next thing you know, you're coming up on 10 days out and from whatever date they gave you, but they still haven't paid the invoice. Then I'm usually like, hey man, we're not going to be able to do this, or, I'm going to need you to go ahead and pay this because I can't sacrifice whether or not you're going to pay me or not. You know what I mean?
once you get burned once or twice with that, you kind of learn your lesson. There are people out there that still do that, but you know your clientele. If you're comfortable with your clientele and have a good business relationship with them, then that's going to help, establish the payment cycle there. We'll get into funds in a second because I do have a question pertaining to that. But I want to know Nap's take on the communication piece. What is enough? What is not enough?
So on that, I actually, preface our communications with customers with, hey, thanks for reaching out. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, whatever the case may be. Here's the cost, what's your email, all the things. And then I hit them with the next message. Once things are kind of set in stone, it's okay. So this can go one of two ways. It's either A, I can give you progress updates and pictures of your project as it's being completed, or I can just tell you when it's done and send you a final picture. So typically that's how I go about it, because that kind of leaves the ball in their court as of like, okay, I want to know exactly what's going on with my project, or B, I just want to see it done and cool. So typically most customers actually opt for, hey, I want to see the progress of my project because, well, they want to make sure, one, it's getting done. Two, some people are actually genuinely interested as to what goes into making whatever it is you're making. So shadow boxes is typically what I get most of the, like, hey, I want to see the progress of the picture of the project. Certain other things like the mass production jobs, they just want to see that you're actually making them because, for example, like the Master Sergeant Release one, there was, 36 plaques made. They were worried that I wasn't going to be able to produce the 36 plaques, but, Nick and I have done far larger orders than that, where it was like 50 and 50 during a Master Sergeant induction ceremony, and that was much larger, much more involved, and we got that done in plenty of time.
Yeah. No, I get that. I can't wrap my head around just like when people ask for progress pics, it's like, fuck you, man. Sorry. That's like I for one, if I'm not posting it on Instagram, it's because I'm freaking busy, like getting stuff done. For two, and I mean, I'll accommodate them, but when they're just up your ass about it, hey, you're gonna send me a picture of the progress. Hey, where are you at on this? Hey, good Lord, man. I think that here's the thing, right? Look at the reviews, look at what other people have gotten, and look at look at the quality that they have received. And then think about it to yourself before you ask for a picture. Now, if there's like a whole bunch of bad reviews saying this person was late, this person did a shitty job or a crappy job, or this, it's not what I wanted, then yeah, absolutely. But I feel like that if you have all those reviews and happy customers that have walked away with hardware or items that they enjoy, then I think you should leave it in the hands of that maker until you get it. And then if you're not happy, absolutely tell them, because they'll make it right. Well, they should make it right. Like, yeah.
So I agree with both of you guys, honestly. If they ask for a progress pic, I'll definitely take one for them, but I don't offer it right up. I've had people want way too much. I did a cutting board a long time ago, and I had a lady essentially wanting videos, pictures, like nonstop stuff of this one project. And like, I actually had I think I videoed her at one point in time, telling her what I was doing. I was posting regular about the project like I normally do. I was actually doing more so because of that. It just was never enough. She was happy with the project. But again, Nick, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, look at the business before you buy. We're well established at this point. We have reviews. We have all that. Look at what you're doing before you buy. Jason in the comments brought up some really good points I'd like to point out. Now, he goes back to like the progress pics and like, send them a pile of lumber if you haven't started yet, or if it's shipped, go take a picture of the post office. That's fun.
That's a smart ass way.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah, I'm assuming that's where he was going with that. But he did bring up a really good, interesting point. He asked, would you ever play with the idea of live streaming yourself doing projects in the garage? Now,
no.
there are That would be interesting alone, because most of it for me would be staring around looking for the tool I just dropped and needed to use, or trying to figure something out, or throwing my hands in the air, walking around. You can just ask my wife. That's the majority of what I do in the garage. 10% is actually building. The rest is that. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't want people to see me with my shirt off. It's so hot here, man.
I'm surprised you have pants.
It's so hot here, man. Like, I go out in the garage without my shirt on because it's so damn hot. So I don't want people to see that. I'm not going to live stream my garage. You can get the out of here. Sorry. Get the heck out of here, man. I'll charge you extra. I'll put you on my OnlyFans. You can watch me work in the shop.
Only sawdust. Oh, yeah. Lord.
Nap, what about you? You gonna live stream your shop experience and have people watch you throw across the room when you mess up?
Yeah, right. All right. So I've toyed with the idea of recording and then posting an edited version of like projects I've done, but I've also done like the how-tos a couple times, like in short clips and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that, but live stream not so much because one, as Nick pointed out, yes, I lose my temper in the shop when inanimate objects are not doing what I want them to do, but rather doing what they want to do. But there's also the fact of I'm not gonna say I'm not unsafe in my shop, but there are times where like I don't wear glasses, or I'm not wearing a respirator, or I'm not wearing some kind of PPE that I probably should be wearing, but I'm in the groove.
Personal protective
equipment. For those that aren't military and don't know what PPE is. But I don't need some freaking troll going like, oh, you aren't wearing your safety gear. Like, all right there, troll. First of all, you probably don't wear safety gear half the time either. So go and keep your opinions to yourself. I'd rather not do that and just open myself up for somebody to sit there and criticize me for what I'm doing. Because at the end of the day, I'm doing what I do best, and sometimes we get in a groove and we forget to put things on, or, whatever the case may be. And on top of that, it's loud in the shop sometimes because I'm not just working one job at a time. I'm typically got a CNC going on one corner, laser going in the other, the dust collector is going like crazy. So it's just like, nah, I'm good. I don't think that would be a really great idea, especially because if you are jobbing, you're not really going to care for the noise unless you mute the noise before you put it out there. So, I mean, I'll pre-record, I'll edit and send it, but I won't do live.
I can make the argument content is content, but I agree with you 100%. Maybe do a live a recording that you edit, and then you put music to or something like that. So unfortunately, if you post online as a maker or if you have an online presence at all, if you do something that is not safe in the shop, someone might pick up on that and they might do the same. So regardless, if you have someone liking your post or commenting, or you talk to them online, they're seeing what you do, and you might influence them to do something that's unsafe. So I can see the negative impact of that particular feature in, trying to utilize that as your social media presence or YouTube or what have you, or Sawdust and Cut or whatever you want to call it. So one of the last questions I want to pose to both you guys, because we're kind of on a business streak right now about, managing business and clients, communication. Nick was bringing up financial stuff. Now, financials everyone does things differently. You might have an accountant, you might not. I'm not trying to dive too deep into this, but I did find something fascinating that Nick brought up. He stated that when he gets a job, he put aside material funds and he puts aside different funds for the job. That way he ensures that he has enough funds for that job and the jobs that he gets. Now, my question posed to both of you is, how do you do that? Now, there's multiple different ways. I know if you could do that. I'm just curious if you guys utilize the way I'm thinking.
Okay, well, so I'll go ahead. Like I said before, I buy everything up front. That, like the large materials, little things like expendables, like glue and tape and all that stuff. I have on a regular delivery from Amazon. So, well, not the glue, but I get the glue elsewhere. But actually, you know what? Yeah, I do buy the glue on Amazon. I get my CA glue on Amazon, and I have it on like every 45 days or something like that. It's
subscription.
Yeah. So, and I do it because I figured out how long I was, when I would need a top up. And that was about right. Was anywhere 30 or 45 days or something. So depending on what it is. Blue painter's tape, always need more blue painter's tape. just like for those costs, I just factor that into, it comes out of the business account. I don't really count that as a materials cost for the customer. But although
so you have a business account.
Yeah, I have a business account. Yeah. So it works both ways. And then whatever's left, whatever's the profit or for my labor and stuff like that, that goes into a separate account. So through Square, you can set up different ways so I have like a escrow for sales tax and usage. And then once everything's purchased from that order, comes out of that Square account, and then everything else goes into a third account that's just to sit there until I need it. And that's the account that my incidentals come out of.
I'm not as sophisticated. Typically, a lot of my things don't require a lot of multimedia, so I actually buy a lot of my material ahead of time, i.e. lumber. So I typically buy lumber in 50 board foot pallets, I guess you can say. So like when I'm re-upping on things, even if I still have some left, I go 50 board foot cherry, 50 board foot red oak. And then for like the more expensive stuff, except for walnut, which I found a pretty decent vendor for, I'll get, 25 board foot of walnut, maybe 10 to 15 of mahogany. I don't buy much maple because I still have the very first bit of maple I bought since I've been here, because nobody really looks for, they'll go, oh, let me get some nice maple. Like nobody really ever asks for that. So I'll use that for like cutting boards or some accents or whatever the case may be. But now as far as like acrylics and stuff, yeah, okay, I can say like if I've got someone that wants acrylic sign, or if they want something that's a little more custom with multimedia, yeah, okay, I'll buy it. But I don't have any separate accounts. So I actually use my credit card to purchase everything. All the funds go into my checking account, and I pay my credit card off with the checking account as I go. For me, it's kind of like just taking a loan out against myself and paying it back in a way. That's just the way I do it. I don't have a separate like account for incidentals or anything like that. I just go about it that way. So
if it works for you, it works for you. This is one of those things. If you own a business or getting started to own a business, you figure it out. What works for you, and basically, if you don't, you'll find out quick if you have to. One of the things I'm doing here is painfully reading a lot of business books, trying to get a little better at the business side of the wood shop. So it's one of those things where it's been my first year of business, going on my second year. First year, I learned a lot. There's a lot of things that I didn't do that I hopefully will do this year to make it easier for tax time and such as that. Well, I plan on putting most of those in place once I spin up the shop again. But, trying to get smart as much as I can. And one of those techniques basically was something like mix setup. Is you have multiple accounts, basic savings accounts or checking accounts, and you put in, sales tax in one, and you put in, for materials in another. And they go a little overboard. They have quite a few accounts and they split it up. It's almost like the envelope method, if you ever heard of that on social media. But basically, it's a way to separate the money you get so that you can take a profit, and essentially everything has its own account, so you're not going to overdraft or go into something else and take money that is not meant for that. And I was just curious on your the way you guys have it set up, because I guarantee some people listening to this might be starting their business or in the starts of their business, and maybe they could take away something that we said here today. We do have a question that was submitted to the Sawdust Station podcast page. Did we want to get into that today, Jess? Sure. Or do we want to wait until next?
Send.
Do it.
Okay. I have to pull it up, so if someone has it in front of them now,
while he's pulling that up real quick, just insert safety brief here. Hey, folks, so guess what? It is 4th of July weekend. I will tell you that if you are out grilling, having adult beverages and fireworks do not mix. Okay, so please, for the love of God, if you value your workshop and your time in the workshop, do not drink excess amounts of alcohol, because I would be unrealistic in saying that you don't have a beer or two on the 4th of July. But do not drink excessive alcohol and play with explosives, because you could lose a hand. And if you are a business owner, as we've been talking about, and or just like working in the shop, and you want to keep your hands, don't do it. Insert and end. Safety brief.
Keep your fingers. Keep your fingers.
Well, you can keep them. You might cut them. I'm still working off that cut. Tell you what, my thumb is like throbbing from going golfing. It's still not healed. Like the nerves there. Whee! Thumb throbbing. Anyway, we do have that question, and I have it pulled up. And it's talking about dial lasers. Any advice for using the Ninja? N-E-G-J?
Okay, yeah, you're gonna say it all over again, so I can. What is the Neji?
Neji? Is it Neji? Is that how you pronounce that?
I've actually
anyway, any advice for using the Neji 3 Plus for cutting? I can't get it to cut through the balsa wood. I use light burn and tried in a honeycomb mat, but still can't get it to give me a nice clean cut. Now, I did some research on this laser when he sent this, and I believe it was last week, Wednesday, and I believe it's a 10 watt. So we're going to go off the assumption that he got a 10 watt dial laser and is trying to go through balsa wood, and maybe let's say 1/8 inch balsa wood. So we'll go with that and try to answer this question the best we can. Hopefully we hit it on the head here. So anyone want to take it?
I have many questions here, but the first question is, do you have air assist? If not, that's like problem number one, why you can't cut through it, because unfortunately you need some type of air assist to cut through a material. It's as simple as that. Even because I was able to cut through stuff with a 7 watt, and I was able to cut through 1/4 inch. It was 2 passes, okay, because it's not like a CO2 where you can 1 pass it and it's fine. But it was a 2 pass with a 7 watt JTech laser, in fact, and I had a mini air assist on it, and it made it that much easier. You won't get a clean cut without an air assist. It's as simple as that. So
that is true.
That's my take on that.
You get a nasty little burn, scorched edges without that.
Yeah.
So air assist, make sure you're focusing it correctly. Make sure you do the passes correctly. Full send on the first pass, and sometimes multiple sends at lower settings will do actually better clean cut. There's a lot of different factors.
So I've had to do it, like Josh said, multiple passes, but also you got to think your focal point of that laser beam is, depending on how thick the material is, you're going to need to lower or move that laser head closer to the material, because once you clear out a groove with the first pass, your focal point is still the same. So you lower it an increment and it'll just push that focal point down further and cut it and increase your cutting power. I only do it every now and then when I'm cutting through real thick stuff. But
I'll say another thing to note on that too is, Nick, and you make a good point with the stepping down. We'll call it incrementally, like you said. If you don't do that, you'll actually get a cone cut out. It'll be a cone shaped instead of even. So, you got your 90-degree cuts on a CO2 because you need 1 pass, you don't got to step on it. But if you're using a diode and you're not stepping down, what'll end up happening is instead of get that 90-degree clean cut, it'll start to actually taper a little bit because you're burning the same area at the same focal point as Nick stated, and it'll start to actually erode the edges down into a cone, and your beam will start to widen, which then will also start to cut more, we'll call it horizontally, because it's burning. Overburn is a lot more as you start to go deeper without adjusting your focal point. So there's that.
So some ways to combat that. You guys both hit it right on the head. Depending on what type of dial laser you have 2 types that I know. You have one type that basically you can adjust the focal point through the lens and dial it in that way, which is going to be a little bit more difficult for you if you're going to have to incrementally lower that focal. Now, if you have one of those diodes that have a particular distance between the lens and the material, that is actually going to be easier for you to go ahead and calculate that. Is you could take something thin like a paper clip or whatever and cut it to that length. That way you can actually drop down the laser head and create a focal length that's appropriate for the thickness of your material. Just some ideas and some insight from us. Hopefully that answers your question, and thank you for writing it. But gentlemen, I think we're actually hitting the end of the podcast. So if you'd like to wrap it up, starting off with Nap, let's go ahead and do that.
Hey folks, typically I wrap this up with a community message, but really I'd rather wrap it up with have a happy 4th of July. be careful, be safe. I know I jokingly and more seriously added that safety tip for this 4th of July weekend, but please, explosives are definitely dangerous. They may not be, crazy in, we'll just say explosive power, but if you're messing with mortars and things like that, please just do your due diligence, make sure everything's set up properly, use the proper means of lighting your fireworks, and please don't drink excessively while doing this, because honestly, that's where most accidents happen. So stay safe, have fun, enjoy some food, enjoy friends, family, and all those things. And we look forward to seeing you / hearing from you next week on the next episode. Nick.
Well, like always, take care of yourselves and each other, and please do have a safe and happy 4th of July. Also, if you're going to fire off some fireworks, please make sure you buy the biggest ones you can. And that's all.
Thank you for listening to the 158th episode of Soda Station Podcast. We hope that you have a happy 4th of July. And remember, you can lose your fingers in the shop or you can lose it during the 4th. Either way, it's going to suck. So don't do it. Go make some sawdust. Sawdust Nation Podcast out.
Okay, bye. Have a fun 4th. Insert eagle noise.
Yeah, get the eagle.
That's not an eagle. That's a whatever that was.
Eagle!